Okay, welcome to the NServiceBus tips and tricks. Today we're gonna take a look at a small trick you could use to set up the Host.exe to start automatically when you hit F5 in a way that it would still work even if you push this to your remote repository. Okay, so let's create a new solution here. Let's call it the solution 1. Seems like a good thing here. And let's do the a class library, which will be the default when you are creating new endpoints that should use the NServiceBus host. So let's call it class library 1. Sounds like a good name to me. So the first thing you need to do is to go into package manager console and grab the latest host package from NuGet. Install package -pre to get the latest 3.0 release candidate. So NServiceBus.Host. Okay, so that's gonna download the current version of NServiceBus and it's going to install it into your project. Okay, we're done. So we got a few references here. We got the log4net reference that because NServiceBus is using log4net. We also got the NServiceBus assembly, the .core assembly, and the host. The host is the one that we're interested in right now because that's the exe that you will use to run your endpoints. So if I just hit F5 now, I'm going to get a classical exception saying that a class library can't be started on its own. So therefore we need to define and set the exe that we're going to use. So the traditional way to do this would be to go into properties and point to the exe. So we start an external program and we point to that exe that will now be in the root folder here. So go into class library 1, go down to the bin debug folder, we point to the host.exe and we just hit F5. So hitting F5 now means that exe is actually invoking our code, and the exception message again here is saying that no endpoint configuration is found. So let's fix that quickly. So we go down into the project and we'll stop it and we call that the endpoint config. I usually name my endpoint configurations endpoint config just as a convention. In 3.0 the endpoint name would be the defaulted to the namespace of your endpoint config. So if you want to put a better name on here, you can call it whatever, my endpoint. Okay, but to fix that issue we need to implement iConfigure this endpoint. Like that. And to just get quickly started, we could use one of the built-in roles of NServiceBus. I use the role called as a server, which contain kind of the default settings that we think that you should use when you're running your endpoint as a server. So let's hit F5 again here. Now the endpoint will actually start up. Yeah, so you can see the yellow printouts there. It's just it's creating its input queues when it's starting up. Okay, so all is good, but the problem is that let's assume that you switch configurations here. You switch now to the release configuration. Hit F5 again. Now it's gonna blow up again because you haven't specified the exe there. But more importantly, if you forget to specify the correct exe, because now you have an exe in the release folder as well and in the debug folder, that could really mean that if you screw up there, you're gonna have some very nasty issues because you will essentially have the wrong exe running. So what by mistake, it could be that you're actually pointing to the exe in the wrong folder. Let's assume I make a mistake here and I point to the debug exe here. It's gonna work fine, but your code won't be running. So essentially meaning that new code you put in won't be invoked. So let's look at the trick we can use here to avoid this whole situation here. So let's close the project, and I'll go in, I'll fetch some properties from my previous project. I'll explain soon what this means. So let's jump into the folder here. Okay, I'm going here, I'm going down to this project file here, gonna open up in Notepad here, and at the end of here, we can just paste in the code I copied. So what we're saying here is that for the debug CPU configuration, we are going to start a program, and it's gonna be the host.exe that's located in the correct bin folder. And in this case, you can specify the profile to use. I'm just gonna leave that blank to run in the light profile. We can also, let's copy paste that one more time, and we add one for release as well. We can actually move that. Okay, so we saved it. Let's open it up again. So you'll see what happening here is that even though you switch here, so you see now that this was actually default to us. You can see here in the release mode, it's pointing to bin release, and if we switch to debug mode here, it's gonna point to bin debug. So just by adding those few lines there, which would be the same lines, you know, no matter what project you're building, you kind of avoid screwing up, pointing to the wrong exe, and any fellow colleagues that will pull your code, they will get the correct settings right out of the box without having to go in there and point to the correct exe. Okay, so until next time, bye bye.